bring something out? Or just share? Oh, no?
No, we don't have.
Did you guys?
No.
We did not bring extra handouts, but we did send them. We can drive on the screen.
Good morning. This is the House Appropriations Committee. It's Tuesday, February 3rd, 2026. It's 10:15 a.m. and we are now joined by the Vermont Student Assistance Corporation, VSAC. And always a pleasure to welcome you to our committee, talk about the FY27 budget. If you would like to introduce yourselves and then tell us what you got.
My name is Scott Giles. I'm the president and CEO of the Vermont Student Assistance Corporation.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Patrick Leduc. I'm the Chief Operating Officer of Vermont Student.
And I'm having a technical issue here trying to shut the.
Get some handouts now.
Oh, okay. If you've got, do you have handout?
People have it either on their screen or I have my paper one, so I'm happy.
There you go.
If you've got that, then what we
You
can
can
do.
also share the screen at some point if you want. Maybe you just need to be made a host or.
Yeah, you should be.
Share. And it is not allowing me to bring it up.
Well, we'll talk from all of our various pieces of paper.
Okay, I will go ahead and do that. I've got to apologize for the kind of technical issues on my end. But what I would like to do this morning, just begin by thanking you for the support that you all have historically given to VSAC and to the students and families that we serve. It's it's a privilege to enjoy the trust that you've given us. And I think we've got some exciting news to share about the investments that you've made in students. And we look forward to having the opportunity to share a little bit more about that. What I hope to do with this testimony is really three things. One, just provide a very brief reminder for the committee of the work that we do with both the programs that you all support and the programs that we provide using resources both from the federal government and kind of from other resources that we have access to through our student loan programs. Talk a little bit about some significant changes that happened at the federal level. This is probably the largest change in federal financial aid occurred as part of the reconciliation bill this past year. And while the impact will be minor this year, you'll be hearing about that from the higher education community in much greater detail in the year following. We'll share that. And then kind of share one piece of information about something that we are doing to help mitigate all of that, and then move right into our budget presentation, which is relatively straightforward. So if I could just move to kind of slide 2 of our presentation. This is just a kind of brief outline, a reminder that we administer the Vermont State Grant Program for low-income Vermonters, including the Vermont Emergency Micro Grant. This is a grant that we provide to individuals who, because of some life emergency, are at risk of stopping out of school. It may be that, a car repair, it may be, a utility bill, but one of the things that we have learned over time in partnership with the colleges and with CCV is that sometimes a small setback in a student's life can have pretty profound impact on their ability to continue their education. And this is a key part of our retention strategy. We administer 802 Opportunity and the Freedom and Unity grant program, and we'll talk a little bit more about the outcomes from that. But, starting with 802 Opportunity, it has had impact for students that far exceeds even our most optimistic expectations. This is a program with your support that provides Vermont students coming from families earning $100,000 or less the ability to attend CCV tuition and fee free, actually. And it has done a number of things. It has driven an increase in enrollment at CCV at a time when many community colleges saw declines in enrollment. And oftentimes when we think about these programs, we focus on traditional students, but some of the biggest beneficiaries of this program have been working adults. individuals who are earning just enough money not to be eligible for aid, but need skills in order to be able to obtain the next job. And then we administer a number of interest-free workforce incentive programs, which we'll talk about as part of our budget request. Moving to slide 3, this is just to touch on our federal or VSAC-supported programs as a reminder. Using 3 federal grants, we provide career and education counseling to 5,800 students of all ages across the state. We are able to provide support to students in nearly every middle school and high school around the state. We've got our counselors living and working in the regions that they support. And they'll work with students in multiple schools. And we provide support to adults. I did pass around our 60th anniversary Capitol Hill stress ball for you all. We had the good fortune of having all 3 of our federal grants up for renewal this year. And it has been a little bit of an adventure. I'm pleased to say that we got a continuation notice on one of them. We were able to arm wrestle out a new grant for our largest career and education outreach grant, the Gear Up program, which is a 7-year award. We did get a cancellation notice from the department on our adult program, the Educational Opportunity Center grant program, for alleged violation of diversity, equity, inclusion policies of the administration, and a claim that the grant itself reflected the priorities of the prior administration and not the current one. We have, because we planned for the possibility that at least one of these grants would run into trouble, we were able to set aside enough money to keep that program moving forward for this particular year. And we expect that there will be a competition for a new 5-year grant sometime in the next 2 months. What I'd like to say is that one of our trade associations filed a case in federal court challenging the cancellation of these grants because the proper procedures weren't followed. And we recently received a preliminary injunction, which suggests that this grant will be considered for kind of reinstatement in the next month or so. This is an important grant for us because it really supports the workforce development strategy that we have in place for the state. We administer the 529 plan, which is the college savings plan, and this is turned into one of our most successful programs. There's now over $720 million are invested by Vermonters, and Vermonters are withdrawing nearly $60 million a year to support education and training.
And how did the transition go to the new investment company or whoever?
The new program manager. So, all transitions can be a little bit rocky for borrowers, but we are, overall, we are pleased with the transition as it's moved forward. The technology that this vendor uses is much more user-friendly and also has some enhanced security features in it. And once we have everybody up and running, I think 60% now of the account holders have kind of logged in and created their new credentials in our.
I'm one of the ones who has not. My daughter got out of college in 2010, but we still have a little 529. We're not your biggest client. Leftover to go to one of her kids.
Well, thank you for being a customer, and I'm sure your daughter thanks you as well.
Yeah.
We provide financial aid and forms nights, both in person and virtually. We provide these in nearly every high school in the state. We do offer a student loan program. It's a supplemental student loan program that is designed to meet the gap between what students have in grant aid and what they can borrow under the federal programs. This program is about to become much more important. We raise money using tax-exempt bonds in order to be able to make these loans. It is not an obligation of the state. And when we use tax-exempt financing, we can keep 2% of the earnings that we have on that student loan. And that 2% can be used for the administration of all of our programs, which is what has allowed us, even though we have the authority to draw a portion of our state appropriation, to be able to administer those programs without cost to the state, so that 100% of your investment goes into the hands of students. We administer more than 150 scholarship programs. It's a growing area, worth about $16.8 million now. And these range everything from the Curtis Fund, which for whom we administer nearly $1.5 million worth of scholarships, to your local Rotary Club, who may have raised enough money for $1,000 or a $2,000 scholarship and want to take advantage of our expertise doing financial aid need analysis and application, kind of assessment for that. And we charge a small fee of roughly 5% of the amount that is awarded, in part to kind of support that activity. And then independently, and Patrick can talk more about this if there's more interest, we do administer an employer-funded workforce opportunity forgivable loan program. The biggest one is really with the hospitals, and this is one in which they've provided some seed money. They identify employees who are in working for them in non-clinical roles, usually, who they think would be good clinicians if they had access to the training that they need. The individual takes out a loan from the fund that the hospital provided. We administer it as a loan, but the hospital then pays it back in an annual amount in each year that employee works for them in the new clinical capacity. And it's become an important addition to our efforts to address the nursing workforce shortage.
Absolutely.
Just jumping to kind of slide 4, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, but higher education is kind of in the crosshairs right now in many different ways. And the part that I do just want to touch on, because it's important context for the budget requests that we have made, is that while Congress has not engaged in reauthorizing the Higher Education Act now for nearly 20 years, this is the core program that guides and governs the way the federal government administers and provides student aid in overseas colleges. The reconciliation bill, one big beautiful bill, made the most substantive changes to federal financial aid. Undoubtedly, I saw that there were nurses in the room. You probably heard from nurses, at least a conversation about whether or not nursing programs counted as professional programs or not. And I can touch a little bit on what is involved there. But the biggest things that I wanted to mention really relate first to federal student loans. And that is that for the parents of undergraduates, for probably 30 years, parents have been able to borrow up to the total cost of attendance from the federal government without regard to their credit, their ability to repay. It's been a program that has been both very important and controversial, because oftentimes there are occasions when parents, have gotten themselves in trouble. Under one big beautiful bill, this program was capped. The House Republicans proposed eliminating it. The Senate didn't go along. But as a result of this, a parent will now only be able to borrow for each student up to $20,000 a year or $25,000 a year, with a student lifetime cap of $60,000.
For 1 year.
So if you think about, in particular, an out-of-state student at the University of Vermont, with a total cost of attendance that may be in the $38,000 to $40,000 range, you can see that will create a gap. The bigger place that the changes are likely to have an impact is at the graduate level, where in the financial crisis, a program was created called the Graduate Plus program that allowed graduate students to borrow 100% of the cost of attendance of the graduate program. One of the challenges with that program has been that it became the fastest source of federal debt over the course of the last 15 years, which both reflected increased attendance at graduate and professional programs, but also heightened concern that the access to unlimited borrowing was encouraging schools to increase their tuition and fees for those programs, which is the reason that the federal government engaged in a debate about whether or not those would be capped. So they capped the amount that graduate students can borrow. So a graduate student who is not in a professional program can borrow $20,500 a year. Now, as opposed to the total cost of attendance, which could have been anywhere upwards to $90,000 a year, with a lifetime cap of $100,000. If you are a student in a professional program, you can borrow up to $50,000 a year with a lifetime cap of $200,000. And it is that definition of professional program that has really caused the controversy in many ways. So why did they create a separate cap for professional programs? In large part, it was their concern about med school. That was the group that was making, I think, the strongest case for this. And in the crafting process, they were looking for a definition of professional school. They grabbed an archaic definition from the Higher Education Act that identified 11 professional programs, which were medical doctors, lawyers, pharmacists, osteopaths, doctors of divinity, and a handful of other programs. And those programs currently are the only programs that will be eligible for the increase, that $50,000 kind of borrowing.
Nurses became not part of that program.
Not part of that program. So I'm just going to jump to 6, and then we'll be able to jump immediately into our budget presentation. I'll just say things that we VSAC will be monitoring. So in the absence of alternate strategies, will some low-income undergraduate students fall through the cracks? And this is something that we have to, pay attention to. Will higher cost programs and professions, medical school as an example, be limited to students from families with the means to pay tuition or borrow in the private credit markets? And then this is one that I think is going to be particularly important from a workforce perspective. Will high credential but low pay professions meet the new accountability measures that are going to be in place? I skipped over this section in my presentation, but one additional change that was made, the federal government wants to make sure that any education program it invests in delivers an economic return for the student who participated. And as a result, starting next year, any program which cannot demonstrate that its graduates are earning more than they would have if they had the next degree below them. So if you think a psychology major at the University of Vermont, the psychology program will have to be able to demonstrate that its graduates are earning more than they would have with a high school diploma. And similarly, for a graduate program will have to demonstrate that its graduates are earning more than they would with just an undergraduate degree. And one of the things we want to draw attention to is that there's probably some vulnerability to those programs that we describe as being high credential, but kind of lower wage. Early childhood education would be a place that, we want to kind of flag for attention. And then some programs like licensed clinical mental health counselor, where the requirements are, and I know that we've got some expertise here in the room in this, requires a master's degree and 3,000 hours of supervised clinical training before you're eligible for licensure and for billing. Which are high need and high demand positions within the state, but may or may not meet the new accountability measures that they've been drawn out.
And they can't borrow federal funds.
They can't borrow, and eventually they may be totally ineligible for other financial aid programs, depending on how it plays out. So I want to jump to maybe some better news in here as we move. And I want to touch on something, we won't spend a lot of time on it on page 7, but this is an initiative that we have launched, and I want to give Patrick all the credit for both conceiving of it and for the execution of it. I like to think of this as a positive use of machine learning and AI. But one of the biggest challenges we always have is helping students and families be good consumers of education, picking education programs that are the most affordable for them. This is work that we do through our counseling programs, but there are thousands of students that are not able to participate in our programs. And financial aid letters can be very confusing and hard to interpret. The Award Advisor is an app that you can download from the App Store. We've made it available nationwide. We are partnering with other nonprofits around the country. And you can literally snap a picture of your financial aid award letter, and the tool will translate it into common language terms. And if you've applied to 5 or 6 schools and you have multiple award letters, it will show you exactly what the net cost of each of those programs are, what it is that you will be expected to pay, and if you are going to need to borrow, how much that will be over the course of the program.
There you go, Wayne, there's more AI for you.
And we think that this has become even more important with the changes that the federal government has made. It's going to put even a greater priority on being a smart consumer of education. So with that, I'd like to jump right to our budget request and just make one observation before I jump in, which is that with the support of the committee, I'm pleased to say that Vermont is actually in some ways better positioned to navigate these changes than many of our peers because of the investments that you have made, particularly in 802 Opportunity and in the Freedom and Unity program, as well as our workforce programs. So on page 8, VSAC is requesting, and the governor included within his budget, a 3% increase to our base appropriation. And this includes, our core financial aid programs, 802 Opportunity, and the advancement grant in the Trades Forgivable Loan Program. So this would be the core piece. In addition, and we can talk more about this, you have given us permission over the course of the last decade to use a portion of our appropriation for what we refer to as our aspirations initiatives. This is just a carve out. It's not additional money. Last year, you provided us the authority to use $300,000. This is a program where we partner with a school that is interested in making sure that its students are kind of graduating with a plan for either post-secondary education or employment after high school. And we partner with them to design and develop a set of tools that they can implement with their students. The program has turned into one of our more successful initiatives. And our goal here is always to work with a school for a number of years, 3 to 4 years, and then really kind of hand the keys over to them. And then we can move on to work with another school that has a particularly significant gap in either their college going rate or has a concern about whether or not their students are effectively making or successfully making the transition into the world of work. We're asking that carve out be increased from 300,000 to 400,000.
That's just spending authority, no new money.
That's not new money. That's just,
Anybody comes next.
yeah. New money comes next. Dual enrollment early college stipend. You may recall that we administer that stipend for students. This is a stipend that helps offset the transportation and textbook and other expenses for free and reduced lunch eligible students that are participating in dual enrollment. We're requesting level funding for that program. We think.
Is that in the governor's recommended budget?
Yes.
That's there, okay.
Yes, it is. And then the Freedom and Unity Scholarship. This was a program that you helped us launch last year. You gave us $1.5 million that allowed us to make the regular tuition programs at Vermont State University tuition and fee free. We are requesting an $812,000 increase to $2.3 million that we believe would allow us to take that income threshold to $80,000 a year.
What's the income threshold now?
65.
65.
We are in the process of collecting data. Because we are just starting second semester now, we don't have the complete enrollment data on that first year. But as a teaser to give you a sense for the impact in year 1, with the launch of Freedom and University, Patrick and his team report that we've seen a 7% increase in grant applicants interested in attending Vermont State University, which is a pretty remarkable statistic to see in the very first year of the program.
So the interesting number, not rounded, is because you figured out what it would be to go to 80,000, and that's what you came up with.
Yes. Yes. I think our goal is to always come to you with what we think is a reasonable and really targeted request, rather than picking a round number.
Let's round it to, let's round it up to whatever. So yes, we appreciate that.
No, our goal is to deliver what we've we try to tell you what we're going to do and then deliver on it.
Great.
Mark, is this an additional increase, or is it part of the 27 million?
No, this would be separate from that.
Okay.
We separated that out because last year you provided the funding with one-time dollars, and
Right.
we would obviously welcome having that be part of base, but also wanted to just acknowledge the funding stream.
I'm just sorry. Scott saw my hand and, so I just want to make sure that I'm understanding. So it is the aspirations program, that is authorization to set aside 400K of your base appropriation. The others are additional asks.
Yes.
The dual enrollment, the Freedom and Unity
Just
Scholarship.
dual enrollments.
Full enrollment is actually a separate program that we administer.
Okay,
That is half general fund and half ed fund.
okay.
Right.
All right.
And so that's level funded.
Yes.
But then there's three other
All right.
asks. The next three are asks.
Yes.
Additional one.
I got you. Thank you.
And then what we want to share was that with the support of this committee, VSAC has administered now actually for nearly 20 years a nursing forgivable loan program. This is a program whereby we will award up to full tuition at the University of Vermont. That's the kind of the threshold for a student interested in pursuing nursing who is willing to commit to work in Vermont for a year as a nurse for each year that we have provided them support. This has been funded historically with global commitment dollars. Last year, we received 3.2 million from global commitment for this. The demand has grown so much over the course of the last several years that we could have awarded an additional $5 million had we had it. We did put in a request to the governor for an additional $2 million for this program. And as I think the committee learned during a presentation from AHS, these programs have not been funded. We can talk a little bit about the conversations that have taken place. We also wanted to highlight, and this was a conversation we started last year, and that was that in FY25, we had received funding. These were, I think, ARPA dollars initially for the Vermont Mental Health Professional Loan Program. It's the same structure, and we were given $1 million. Those funds have now been fully expended. And this is a program that going back to the example I used, that federal example of licensed clinical mental health counselor, this program would allow somebody who's interested in pursuing that counseling degree, it could be an MSW, it could be any one of those master's degree programs, master's in psychology. We would pay for tuition in exchange for a commitment from them to work as a licensed professional. As we progressed through this process and we're engaging, the Senate raised the question very late in the process as to whether this too could have been eligible for global commitment dollars. That conversation ended up being dropped at the end of the year.
Right.
We made the request, and neither of these programs are contained within the governor's proposed budget.
So, but you're requesting an additional 2 million in the nurse forgivable loan, not a whole, because the other stuff is in there.
No, none of this.
So you're actually you're requesting the 5,289,000.
Yes. Which would be 2 million above the.
Right, but right now it's at zero is what you're
Yes.
saying. Okay, so it would be really helpful, and maybe it's later on, as I'd love to see the history of like the numbers of people who've gone through that have become nurses. Like Wayne knows where I'm going. And then of the people that, and I'm glad we have a residency requirement, but I wonder if you also know how many people actually stay in Vermont after their required residency is up. Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely.
Did I miss anything?
No, yeah, I just to add a little bit to, we've been working on this for a few years. You have any concept, or you doing any tracking on what the total need is and how rapidly we might be filling in that gap? Is this a 20-year project in order to get enough nurses, or is it something that's doable in 5 years or some duration of time?
Yeah, I think, we've heard a range of numbers out there. We can come back and provide either in person or in writing, kind of some detailed information. We've heard numbers out there about with pending nursing retirements, how great that need is. We've heard numbers as high as 12,000. We have been, thinking that as we take a look last year, Patrick, do you remember how many nurses we actually funded?
About 350.
So we were able to fund.
Oh, I'm sorry, I had that wrong. 176 that we funded with the appropriation that we had. We could have funded another 322 that applied last year.
How many did you have before the 322? I missed the first number.
176 we
176.
funded in the last year,
Okay.
last academic year. But we can come back, as Scott said, with the history of the total
That
volume.
would be great.
History, the total numbers, and
Yep.
and for broadly, what our experience has been is that if you do not fulfill your work obligation, this converts to a loan, and then we
Right.
begin the process of collecting. 90%, historically, 90% of them fulfill their obligation through work.
Great. Dave?
Two things. You mentioned about 5 minutes ago that you have a nurse loan program for those who go to UVM.
No, what we do is it is for any institution that they want
Thank
to
you.
have.
That was my,
But what we've done is we capped the maximum award at the in-state tuition at the university.
thank you. Thank you for that. Madam Chair, I don't know where to get this from,
Huh?
and it may not be here, but we had, when AHS was here,
Yeah.
they informed us about AHEC and the funding
Yeah.
decision, but referred to what I interpreted, perhaps inappropriately and incorrectly, other programs that might take care of that. And I'm looking for a spreadsheet that shows, here's what we lost,
Yeah.
here's what we're gaining. Have we really gained, or are we just holding even?
Right.
And I thought VSAC was going to be some of that approach. And also, which we don't have here, some of the 195 million special funding we're getting for, we believe, 5 years, I think is going for scholarships. Do you know who we would ask
Yeah.
compose such a spreadsheet? So, because I feel like now we're trying to piece it, I'm trying to
Right.
piece it together.
That's a good point. I don't know, Scott, if you have some information on part of this, and then we should look at the rural transformation. There's a whole list of the projects that they have to do, and we can't change those projects. But we can look at the projects and say, are these some of them?
So, no, thank you for that question. That was actually the next point that I was, no, this is perfect. It's the next point I was going to raise. Is that we've been in conversations with AHS from the beginning because we administer the vast majority of their workforce-related programs for them. So Patrick has been working closely kind of with Joe Olson. We've been in conversations with the secretary as well, trying to help them understand both are trying to understand kind of what it is they want to try and accomplish, with the grant so that we can help them with program design, and also trying to communicate to them kind of what the timetable constraints are for these programs. One of the issues that we are engaging them in actively now is that one of the constraints that they have with the rural healthcare transformation that is a concern for us, and for them, is that there's a use it or lose it component to this, that if they do not fully obligate funds pretty quickly, those funds will not be available in subsequent years as part of the grant.
Right.
And we are heading into a period where, put things in perspective, we would be making awards in the currently funded programs in that kind of April, May timetable in order to be able to effectively impact the decisions that students are having for the fall, of this year. So as we try and navigate how these two program frameworks are going to intersect, time is not our friend, and it's something that we need to move pretty quickly on.
Go ahead.
So the nurses are all licensed nurses. Who licenses them?
There's a state licensure process.
So that whoever's licensing them should have numbers, right?
Yes.
Changes in those number of licenses.
And I think, there are a number of sources where we can get workforce information for you, I'm sure. And then if I can just continue down to page 11. And I think you've always asked us this, there's nothing new in this information. We just wanted to share with you that we have identified those sections, kind of for each of our funding and where the language, is traditionally.
When we assign other policy committees to take a look at the budget. Here it is.
And then on page 14, just really for your information, as you are thinking about kind of the healthcare forgivable loan programs, these are programs that we administer on behalf of AHS. And following that on page 15 is again section.
A second. Absorbing 14. So we funded one dentist because that's all the money we had?
Yes, I'd have to go back and see why that number did not get larger, but I believe it is just because that's the funding that we had available for one.
And this was just in FY 26.
This is with the exception of the mental health professional, which didn't have funding. These are all FY 26.
And then just if I can just kind of walk through 15 and 16 really are just showing you where in the language in the program resides.
Very helpful. So these are all the things. Oh, yes, the National Guard tuition benefit. Yes, go ahead. Go ahead.
Can you help me fully understand? I'm making some assumptions. There seems to be a pretty profound difference between a scholarship program and a loan program. A loan program would seem one could much more rapidly impact the workforce shortage by saying, if I'm correct, to a nurse who comes from Rhode Island, we've got your loan. Whereas a scholarship program is the student's got to matriculate. It's going to take several years before that person's ready to go to work. Am I correct?
Yes, although remember that we are also able to support with this program kind of a range of what are called nursing professions. So you got LPNs and two-year nursing programs. So we do have the ability to provide support to not just four-year, but kind of professionals coming in with 1, 2-year, and in some cases, 3-year programs. And then we do provide some additional information because we knew the committee might be interested in that on both aspirations, some of the success we've seen with 802 Opportunity, which I don't, which we can talk about, but if the committee is interested. And then last, we did add, you may not have this, but it is in the material we updated this morning. We have a page 22 now that provides a timeline that we shared with AHS for development and implementation of programs. And if you do not have that, we can pass.
Did you send that to Autumn?
We did this morning.
Okay, I think the new one.
The rural health transformation grant.
Yes.
Timeline, okay, page 22.
Yeah, so it's in our committee webpage, but it's not on the printed one. So I can just print out that page. Oh, you have it?
If we have to.
Oh, you're making copies. Oh, you got it. Now I don't have to print it. We're all doing it. So this affects you. This is the whole rural transformation grant, but no?
It could be, so what we did was we're working with AHS, we wanted to share with them what the normal cycle would look like for us to stand up any new programs related to workforce. And so through the work that we've done with all of you over the years to stand up the other workforce programs, we kind of mirrored those and said, if we hit these milestones, we will be successful in helping students in Vermont in this year, therefore getting those monies out the door and not at risk of not coming back in the following cycle.
So this is the timeline that you need in order to deliver on those programs, and then the money has to be spent by end of September 27. All of their 195 million.
And so what we wanted to share with you, AHS, continues to be a great partner, is great partner historically. Standing up new programs is complicated and requires time. Part of that complication is, of course, a little bit on our end, but the bigger part is that you have to be able to market and communicate the program to people so that you've got the applications coming in. I think that the good news from, our perspective is that to use just as an example, the programs we currently have now, knowing that the programs, in order to be eligible for rural health transformation, have to be different than the programs that we're currently having.
Right.
In some way, we do have, what I would say are live bodies that are, applying to us now for funding from the programs that we are currently administering. And so if we are able to execute the design quickly enough, that's money that would be able to move out the door pretty quickly.
And so have you started to draft eligibility requirements?
Well, I think the last I heard, AHS was just finishing up the negotiations with CMS. And so we were kind of waiting for that to mature. And then we'll be reaching out to them again, probably later this week to see where they stand and when they'd like to sit down and start drafting.
Okay, because February 20th is coming up in 17 days.
Timeline is a little tight.
Yeah, well, so the Joint Fiscal Committee, on which a couple of us sit, is meeting on Friday to presumably accept the rural transformation grant. It has to be accepted by that. So there'll be a public discussion about all of that then. So I would think once we've done that, then we've done our part, get going.
I think, the message that we want to just really leave behind is that we think, these programs have been very successful. They're meeting really clear needs.
Yeah.
We stand ready as an organization to step in, kind of when AHS is kind of prepared to try and move that money forward.
You guys have been great partners with all of these programs, and when ARPA came along in the pandemic and we launched a couple of programs, more than a couple, you took it in stride because you have a good infrastructure in place that you can, run through your process and all of that. So it's great that you can do all these great things for us.
Thank you.
So,
Well, none of this would be possible without the support that you all have provided us. So thank you. It's we take seriously the trust that you have given us and are grateful for the support.
thank you. Any last questions? Dave, do you have anything else?
Well, not for VSAC.
Okay,
So I don't.
all right. Everybody good on this? And
Yeah.
John Kosenska is the liaison, but we know we can always reach you if we need to. So
Absolutely.
wonderful.
Thank
Thank you
you.
very much for coming in.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great to see you. Okay, wow, committee, well,
So Madam Chair,
yes,
just so that I'm tracking this, so joint fiscal meet Friday,
yes,
presumably, I don't want to assume any, they approve the grant
yeah,
that's presented to them. That enables AHS to actually start getting some of that money out the door, even though it hasn't gone through and been approved in the FY 26 or 27 budget.
we have no authority as the General Assembly to do anything about the money in the Rural Health Transformation Grant.
So
We do not appropriate the money. We don't say, can you tweak it here? They can act because they don't need us. All we have to do is accept the grant. That's the only authority that we have. We can choose not to accept the grant. But that's it. That's the only role we play. It was a little surprising to find that out, but in fact, that's the case.
But we're nimble.
But we can't change what's
I
in that
understand.
grant. unlike other things where we have some flexibility, like we did with ARPA. We had flexibility, there were strings attached, but not as many as here. It's like, this is what it is and that's that, so.
And a follow-up,
Yep.
I don't know if our committee of jurisdiction would do this. This information is helpful. Could they say, okay, we understand what the 195 is going for? And then they might say, here's the toolbox or portfolio that VSAC has. We're good to go. We can accept or not the AHEC reduction. And they could recommend to us, even with the 195, you're not covered, or we're good to go.
Right. Well, we want to compare what's possibly being eliminated with what is coming in through that grant.
And we can do that too, but I would seem,
The committees of jurisdiction can take a look at that as well, I think.
and that they know that, or they will.
Well, they're going to be looking at the budget as a whole anyway, and so whether it's healthcare or community services, they're going to say, we agree with the governor's recommendation to eliminate this program, or we don't, or we're, so
We're covered.
I think a lot of people looking at it.
But I think Dave's point is that the budget is one thing,
Right.
but the grant is something different. And Dave has a concern about how that grant might be spent to make sure that what we don't do in the budget might be
Right.
covered by the
That's right.
grant.
And that's where hopefully the policy committees will be taking a look at that as well. And I would expect that we would want to have some oversight just in terms of reporting back on how are you doing getting that 195 million out the door? What programs are working? What are the results? So that we just understand that information. Because even if we can't change it, we should be paying attention to it. Right. Okay. Any other thoughts? So we have at 11:15